Let's get in another very celebrated economist right here on ET Now. Our Poll Pundit Bibek Debroy joins us live to take us through some of his perspective on polls that have been concluded today, at least the seventh phase. Professor Debroy, good to have you on this show. How crucial is this seventh phase? And we did see a lot of high-profile candidates in very key states going into elections.
In terms of the numbers, the important states, of course, are parts of Bihar and UP. And yes, Punjab, although the seats there are not that important. Gujarat, I don't think is much of an issue from the point of view of the numbers, because according to all the polls and all the forecasts, the BJP is expected to do reasonably well in Gujarat. So it's really UP and Bihar.
Professor Debroy, do you get a feeling that Narendra Modi's campaign has lost some steam, especially in states like Bihar, Punjab, maybe even a bit of UP, where we're seeing a fair bit of polarization?
I think it's a little bit difficult to tell, because obviously there have been suggestions of a plateauing out earlier too, and one doesn't really know, because all kinds of poll forecasts have been forbidden until the 12th of May. All one can figure out is that perhaps in UP the BJP is likely to do well in the western parts and in the eastern parts, and perhaps in the central parts the BSP is likely to do much better than what people had expected. I'm not very sure that polarization necessarily works against the BJP, because there's no particular evidence that the votes are getting polarized against one particular political party as opposed to being fragmented. And that's also true of Bihar. In Bihar, though, there has been some degree of polarization.
Professor Debroy, the other thing that we wanted your insight on is the voter turnout. Now, it's been good consistently across all phases, has been good in this phase as well. How are we to interpret this? Is it a good news for BJP, or is it best to not read too much into it?
I don't think we should read into this too much. But remember, there is a slight statistical caveat. I buy your argument, but there's a slight statistical caveat in the sense that the voter list has been cleaned up. And therefore, the denominators are cleaner now. So if one just looks at, let's say, 2009 and compares that to 2014, that's not statistically quite correct. Having said that, of course, there's greater voter interest. There are some states where it could have been much higher, like, let's say, Mumbai, it ought to have been much higher. And certainly, I think it's a very healthy sign that Indians, particularly young Indians, are taking an interest in the electoral system. Your question is, does this help the BJP? Does it not help the BJP? That's a very tough one to answer, because historically, and one has to be careful in extrapolating what's happened historically, whenever there have been high voter turnouts, that's either meant a very strong anti-incumbency, or it has alternatively meant a very strong pro-incumbent.
All right, fair enough. Let's turn focus and talk about the woman who's really hogging all the limelight right now, and that is Priyanka Gandhi, very visible in this last leg of the campaign. Is it coming a tad too late, or do you really think she could perhaps make an impact?
To the extent it is likely to make any impact, it is a bit too late. But a bit too late for what? Meaning, the entire Congress agenda has essentially been directed against one particular individual from the BJP. That's not a very constructive agenda. After all, the Congress has been a party of the government. And what is it that it is selling to the people? So there are again two different things. One is Priyanka Vadra arriving on the scene as an active campaigner. And the second part of it is, what is the message that the Congress is trying to sell? And I'm not very clear that I quite understand what is the message that the Congress is trying to sell.
All right, what is the Congress trying to sell? Wonder if the top brass knows that as well. Thank you very much for joining us on the show this evening, Professor Debroy there. Always good to have your views.